Contract for the director search. And the idea here is that we go ahead and have these discussions now so that these discussions, perfect, yes. So that they're divorced from any person sitting in the seat, and then we kind of we're having a fair process. I've handed out the information that Tammy Grissom with TSBA emailed to all of us about the possible salary ranges that she went ahead and looked at comparable districts, and she looked at both the director's salary in comparison to the size of the district, and also the director's salary in comparison to teacher salaries in those areas. And I'm also passing out Dr. Joseph's contract and Dr. Register's contract, which are fairly similar, but there were changes that we made for Dr. Joseph. So I will just open the floor. This will be, I guess, a fairly casual discussion about what we want to see in both the director's salary and the contract.
Can someone explain table 2.1, superintendent base salary and district enrollment? Can someone explain? I'm sorry.
The salaries, No.
Oh,
here they are.
They're over there. I put them there. Thank you. I guess, can someone explain the superintendent base salary, table 2.1? I don't know, since we're just getting this. Okay.
We have it broken down by gender.
It's kind of interesting by gender. But they're not all out of whack on the highest end.
So also, you had emailed us. I apologize so Anna Shepard is our chair and was going to be here, and she is ill, so I'm now running this meeting and was not expecting to run it. So we also had discussed what the last two director salaries were that we paid, and do you know those numbers off the top of your head that we had? It's in the contracts. Thank you.
And then 253.
Yeah.
Okay, so Joseph was 285, is that right? And register was how much?
253.45.
Do we also, does it matter what interim salaries have been previously? Is that part of the question?
In my experience, it has not been, but
Okay.
you've been on the board a while, I don't know. If you had input,
Do we have
an interim.
We've changed.
Right now, the interim is getting paid the 285, so we know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Corey Harkey has recommended that we come up with a range on salary, and that way we have some ability to negotiate with our final hire.
Okay.
So that's what we're looking to do today, if we can come up with some numbers that everybody's happy with.
So Frida had asked a question about, she wanted this to be explained, the table 2.1, so she can better understand where the table came from and how it's supposed to look. Corey, do you have any information to add?
I have no idea where the table came from.
Okay, so the table came from TSBA.
I don't know
right?
the source of this. I can only tell you that I believe that the left column.
Is that from AASA? Is that the social?
American Association of
Okay.
Superintendents.
Yeah, Superintendent's Association. And that the, obviously across the top is the size of a district, and down the side are percentiles. Percentiles, the 10 would be like 10%. And the median salary is 101,000. The 75th percentile is 115,000. The 90th percentile is 128. That's in that.
see.
Okay, so the 300 to 2,044.99. What? So is it 300,000?
So the way I'm interpreting that is that we are in that farthest right column of 25,000 or more students.
This is literally 300 students in that first column.
A school district of 300 students, right, like maybe a Richard City or an Alamo City or something
We
like
are
that.
an anomaly. and that's why
Versus,
we're 47th
all
in
the way
country.
across, that would be, 25,000 or more. They're just not across the world, there's not that many districts our size. There are a whole lot of itty
So
bitties.
it's not students, it's employees.
Students.
'Cause
I believe that's in student
25,000
enrollment. So if a
That's
district
not
of,
even-
districts of 25,000 or more enrolled students, I'm not sure why they broke it out, male, female. I think that's kind of
I've never
curious.
seen,
That is, I thought it
Just
was male and
interesting,
female
yeah.
students. That's what I thought. That's so random, but this makes
Maybe as a
sense.
group of females, we're particularly interested in that.
Right.
And that a superintendent at the 90th percent in the percentile range would make the average, the average at the 90th percentile would be, well, not the average, the number would be 304,000.
okay, so I'm totally confused. At the very top where it says super base salary, that's employees, not students.
Yeah, superintendent.
That's the superintendent's
superintendent's-
base
but-
salary.
No, I'm talking about the top. So I'm talking about less than 300 to 24.99.
That's student enrollment.
Number of students enrolled in the district.
Somebody tells me, clarify that.
So this here right here, this is going down.
It does, that even doesn't make any sense. 25,000 and get paid this much for, that's crazy.
It could be, yeah, but it could be more. So it
Yeah,
could
I'm
be a
just saying
student
25,
50,000.
right,
could get paid.
25,000, the
Yeah.
get paid $236,000. I don't like this, this thing.
It's not laid out.
I don't like this.
So, because it could be someone, it could be a $50,000, 50,000 students could be making 200
For 25,000 students, someone's gonna make 236.
or more. So it, yeah,
Same book, it's
Yes.
25,000.
yes.
So really, we need to be focusing on the last column, the 25,000 or more students, right?
As I interpret this
general,
page, I believe the
Informational
farthest right
purposes.
column is most germane to your conversation today.
The average salary for districts of 25,000 or more students is 232,000 for men, 236,000 for women. Yes,
That's the way I interpret that, yes.
female superintendents
Correct.
make more
Right.
in the large districts than male superintendents.
But even that quadrant is a bit skewed because we don't know how many students, but this other table is probably a bit more useful because it compares enrollment directly to superintendent and teacher salary. So to be honest, I'm just ignoring table 2.1. I'm strictly looking
like
at
this table.
well, what's happening between MNPS and other reasonably considered urban districts that have 75,000 or more students.
And I do think it's also, and I don't have these salaries in front of me, but I know kind of off the top of my head, I do think it's important to compare what the salaries are for superintendents across the state. So I know in the major urban areas. So I think the lowest is Knoxville, which is around 180,000. And then I think Memphis is paying somewhere in the 270,000 range. So I think that might also be
What are
pertinent,
their
particularly.
enrollments?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Are they
I can see
close
if I
to
can find
ours?
it.
Shelby's bigger.
Yeah, Shelby's, larger.
Like 100,000 kids.
And Knoxville's
Over.
smaller, I just don't know.
I think Knoxville's like 40.
Hold on, let me look.
We're looking those numbers up.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think it's probably what we were asking her for. I don't know what it is.
So, and the other concern that I've had, and I don't think we're going to be able to calculate this today, is all the benefits and what those add up to. Because I know with Dr. Joseph, we had a 285 base, but then when you added all the benefits, we were actually paying like 334,000. I don't know what Dr. Register's benefits were, what those added up to. I mean, it's included in the contract, but I don't know what number those would have added up to. I don't know if you have any idea, Chris.
I think the big difference is going to be the deferred compensation
Uh-huh.
part of the contract. I can't remember exactly, but Dr. Register's wording is the same as Dr. Joseph's. It should be fairly similar, but I can't remember.
Okay, I'll look.
I know Dr. Register, that in 2016 breaks out 400 years.
So if we focus on just this chart that we're saying that we prefer the most, Albuquerque is the closest to us with average teacher salary, and Fort Worth is the closest by enrollment. So I think that those are where we should focus on trying to create a range instead of looking at outlier potential situations.
Although I will say, I'm a little concerned that Albuquerque, so Memphis has a larger school system, but they are paying the Albuquerque salary. So maybe that should be more toward the top.
Did we get any numbers? Anybody find any numbers for
So
Memphis?
relative to Shelby County, yes. According to their website, Shelby County's total enrollment, K through 12, well, pre-K through 12, including all their charter schools, is 108,900, so just over 100,000 essentially. It's just over 200 schools, 15,500 employees, 6,600 teachers, for reference.
And how much, what's the salary for the superintendent?
I do not,
The 270.
that's
Much?
not included in the information that I was.
That was me. I'll see if I can find out what,
Okay.
because I did see these at TSBA, but I don't have them with me.
And then what was for Knox County, and then what Chattanooga? I mean, I know neither of those are really like
Well,
Nashville.
do we want to consider Knoxville? They're not technically an urban school district.
Not to be honest.
Ms.
Well,
Judge?
I'm only
Consider
considering, they're
the
part
chart
of our
anyways.
class group,
Okay.
and those are the 4 largest areas, and so that's why I was looking
Okay.
at, including Chattanooga.
As an interim, Joris Ray there made 285, and that was reported. in
That's Knox
commercial.
County?
That's
Shelby
Shelby
County,
County.
I apologize.
Oh, Shelby make 285?
285, okay.
I don't have his final contract, but that was his contract while he served as interim.
Okay.
I'm just throwing out Knox County as I think the lowest of the urban Tennessee schools. We can also look at others.
Knox County and Hamilton County, are they consolidated with a city and schools? Do they have a city school district and a county
Knoxville,
school
Knox
district?
County's in Knoxville,
Okay.
and then Chattanooga would be Hamilton. I don't know.
But she's saying, is there a
Are they
county and a
metropolitan?
city school
City
system?
school district,
I don't know.
okay. They're combined, okay. The school district's combined, okay.
Is Memphis City Schools even something to consider? I mean, what is there?
They're combined now, too.
Yeah.
Memphis
So Shelby-
City, yeah, and Shelby combined into one.
Gotcha.
I would just add for reference that Knox County has 88 schools.
Oh, shoot, okay.
That's numbers of students, 60,000.
And I'm pretty sure their salary's 180. I found a range, but that's all I found.
And the budget for the past fiscal year, under $500,000, so.
Oh, yeah, okay, you're right. Yep, ignore them.
Okay, this is a 2017.
And I apologize, yeah. Some of the
This is
zeros.
a 2017 article about Knox County, which says that they gave a 2-year contract for $200,000 for their next superintendent. I think these have gone up since I've looked at them.
So we're in a good range then, okay.
Where is that at?
I mean, not, these are determinative, I just want to kind of get a range.
Well, I think you're right. I like the idea of staying between Albuquerque and Fort Worth. And actually, I just like where we are. I don't want to go up to 300. Not yet.
I'm with you on that.
Because at this point, I think that's what somebody would try to negotiate. I mean, really, you know.
Yeah, I mean, if I was negotiating.
Shoot, yeah, the possibility of having 3 superintendents in 18 months, like having 3 mayors. Constant turnover. What'd you say?
I assume you know who's in full.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so this is an article saying that Brian Johnson in Chattanooga started in 2017 with 197.5 was his. And then and other salaries, which we, including Sean's. Okay.
Ms. Frog, although this is interesting data to look at across the U.S., I think that it would be helpful to have more information on Tennessee, large Tennessee counties. That's more specific than what we have delved into here. Maybe we can discuss that more at the next meeting.
Okay.
Do we want to consider the number of employees of a district too? Is that something that I think is relevant here?
Yeah, because I'm kind of coming with the list because I feel a little disorganized. I'm a very visual person. So I'm thinking like when we have this next meeting, we have like the new info kind of based on this chart. We have each of the large school districts in Tennessee, the number of schools, number of students, number of employees, number of teachers. And then once we do the fringe benefits, the healthcare benefit, the retirement benefit, and which system are they going in? Are they going to the state system? Are they going in Metro pension benefit system? And then the healthcare, are they doing, well, I guess the only option would be do our own personal health care. If we're going to add up all the different things, because I'm looking at the retirement, well, the contract, and I'm assuming for the deferred compensation, says the director of school shall participate in the appropriate state local pension retirement system. So I'm assuming they're in the state retirement system and not Metro benefit. Is that correct, Mitch? Okay. Okay, that's good to know. I guess kind of have that a little bit more spelled out, so we're comparing apples to apples, and we're having an amount of what fringe benefits are we considering. And with that, does that include driver, no driver, mileage? I don't know how we do cell phones here with upper management. Is that a cell phone allowance, or do we pay for the cell phone bill, or kind of spell that out a little bit better of what we're comparing, so make sure we have a full picture going into negotiations. So I'm trying to write all that down
Appreciate that.
while we're talking.
Chris, how many associate superintendents do we have? Is that what they're called now?
We have 3 associate superintendents, 2 for elementary, 1 for middle, 1 for high school.
And again, 2 for,
2 for elementary because of the number of elementary schools, 1 for middle schools, and 1 for high schools.
and those were created when? When were these associates and superintendents created? Was it with Dr. Register or Dr. Joseph?
It was sort of an outgrowth of Dr. Joseph's community superintendent concept, and it then changed from community superintendents, having 4 of those, 1 in each quadrant, to having 4 associate superintendents that were tier level as opposed to geographically clustered.
How much are we paying though? How much are we paying these associates? It's,
I think it's 150, 155.
so when we take account that we're paying associate superintendents, a superintendent, we're looking at well over, so if we're looking at 285 plus 150 times 4. Can somebody do the math for me? I know I'm talking.
About $1 million.
885.
I will say that in the past, right, the names have changed, but the positions always existed, right? There were chief officers, right, under Dr. Register for tiers, chief officer of HR, chief officer of, student services. There's always been that level of position, but I think the associate superintendent title is relatively new to MNBS. Do you think that sounds right?
We
I think
did add.
it's relatively new to us.
We did
yes.
add a few top level, maybe 2 or 3. Under Dr. Joseph, there were more people in those roles.
We had a chief
than
of schools
before.
and chief of academics. Now we just have a chief of academics.
So have we increased the salaries by
Yes,
these
everybody.
roles?
Yeah, they went up to 180, I believe.
I remember when I came in, I asked about the restructuring in 2016 when I won, and it was like a net difference of like $38,000 in with the restructuring. I mean, I don't know who with what, but whatever the name changes were and the salary changes were, as a school system, the top level staff, it was like $38,000 difference, if that means anything for the.
Per salary.
No, like period. So overall, if you combined everyone that was top level, I just remember that when I had my new board member boot camp, that was one of the questions I asked, and it was like $38,000. I don't know. I don't remember the details. That was just one thing that I always remembered. $38,000 for top level staff was after restructuring. After you combined everybody's titles and salaries and everything, it was with the new change, it was an increase of $38,000 total.
Get the numbers for me. How much was it total?
That was 905 between those five positions.
That's between the superintendent and the 4 additional. So, okay, that's a lot. Do the other ones have that, that we're comparing our other districts to? They have associates, or either not even say I don't know what their titles can be. So my point of it is, if we're spending almost $1 million just on superintendents, then we need to be looking at the salary very closely as far as decreasing the superintendent, because the superintendent basically oversees pretty much the entire district. They will have their different officers in place, but if we need that many more to help the superintendent, then we need to really make sure we look at how much more we want to pay or how much less we want to pay the superintendent if the need is still there. Does everybody kind of get what I'm saying? You have any questions about it?
I get it. I guess the question is, then what leeway do we provide for the structure of the superintendent's, director of school, senior staff? So are we going to direct the structure of that?
Right.
And is that our role?
So what we do is we need to look at HR, which we've questioned HR and the practices of how much we're paying top level positions. So we probably have to go back and circle back around to see how much more we're paying for those levels or those top level positions to see if they're supporting the needs of our schools. So these positions that were created, we've not had them before. So we just got these positions. How many years, how long ago did we get
I
these
will say they
positions?
existed, they just had a different name. But we've always had a elementary, middle, high. We've always had a chief finance officer. We've always had a student supports. We've always had a COO. We've always had a communications chief.
So what we called them were lead principals, is what we called them.
Well, I just say, I do think it depends on how you define those top-level roles, because I know that, like, when I asked, I was told that we had added maybe 2 to 3 top-level roles, so it just depends on how you define those things, and so, but it is the directors, the director gets to decide who they're gonna hire, and then we approve the budget based on their recommendations, or don't approve the budget, but I understand what you're saying. You're saying if we're going to have a large number of people that have to be in a top superintendent's role to support the superintendent, do we take into account how much support that superintendent needs in setting the salary? So I guess that's the question.
I don't know how we would find that information of how many, I mean, I guess we could ask Tammy for that, of how many supers, underneath associate supers, I guess is the term now that we're using. These, we'll say sister school systems have, but my assumption would be that they have a similar number, if not the same or more in some situations, because of their enrollment numbers as well. So I don't think us having the 4 associate superintendents is that surprising. And like Amy said, I understand that the amount of money is surprising maybe, but I think that's kind of what is expected in the marketplace for our school system size. So I guess on that note, if we consider outside of what we asked Tammy for, which are these school systems that are the most like us, and I would rather us focus, I guess what I'm trying to say, I would rather us focus on this information than the Tennessee sister schools. I understand that information is important to have and what other people are getting paid within the state, but we're doing a nationwide search And so we need to make sure that we are competitive and interesting to people that are outside of Tennessee. The Tennessee schools are important to have, and I'm intrigued and interested in what Chattanooga, Knoxville, and Memphis are doing, mostly Memphis, truthfully. But I don't think we need to ignore this other information that came from Tammy, as I think that probably should guide us the most, because it's where our people are going to come from or who they would probably apply to as well. That's where we're going to find the most talent if we're doing a nationwide search.
So it just depends on Tennessee.
Yeah, I'm aware of where we're located. I'm just saying.
If we're going to look at marketplace and we're going to look at the amount of associate superintendents that we're paying, then I would like to be able to look at other surrounding urban districts in Tennessee to decide on what they're paying and who's up under them as far as their chiefs or whatever the case may be, so that we can have an exact comparison.
That is, we can look at that information, I think, but once again, that's outside of our purview. The director gets to decide those salaries and those people and those positions.
I understand what you're saying, but if we're going to pay almost $1 million on superintendents, I want to be able to see what Shelby County is doing, how many chiefs they have. If it's not Knox County now, then we may not look at Knox County, but I want to look at other urban school districts that are doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's just fair.
Okay, so like I said in the beginning, I don't know where we would get that information, and maybe we ask Tammy for it, of what other kind of support positions they have. It sounds like Frida's doing a long Excel spreadsheet potentially.
She's got a list over here going.
But if that's something that we find is helpful, I just don't know if that data would really exist as helpful.
It's worth investigating. That's all Fran's saying. She just wants to investigate it, and that's
Yeah, I
valid.
heard.
Yeah.
If it's helpful, I just happened to look up the Shelby County org chart that's current.
Great.
In addition to a director of schools, there is a chief of schools. These are the titles of chiefs. Chief of schools, chief strategy and performance management, chief of academic operations and school support, that's one position. Chief of student, family, and community affairs, a chief of staff, a chief of communications, a chief academic officer, a chief of internal audit, a chief of safety and security, a chief financial officer, a chief of human resources, a chief of information technology, and a chief of business operations by my count. Oh, pardon me, and
14 people.
13 by my count.
I
Now,
thought they were
we
more
have the
top
same
heavy.
thing here too. So the same thing student supports they have as far as chiefs or we have pretty much.
We don't
in
have
different
14
operating-
we don't have 14
No,
chiefs.
they're called chiefs, but we have the same support names. Our names may be a little bit different than chiefs, but we have the exact same thing going up under our memo too.
Right, the exact same.
Yeah. So, but they're not called chiefs. They're called other people
Right,
in the department that supports our schools. That's what I'm saying. They may be called chiefs, but we have this too. Yeah,
No, I'm just saying,
yeah.
that's how their org chart reads, is in
No,
terms
I'm
of
saying,
second
yeah.
layer
Yeah.
under a superintendent.
And we have all of this already laid out in our own schools already. So it's nothing different that we don't already have that they don't have. My question was about the number of superintendents that we have and that we're paying.
I don't think we should get hung up on the term superintendent. I think it's just a title. It's not, I mean, there are some districts that say a deputy chief, deputy superintendent, associate superintendent. I don't see them as superintendents. I see them as officers, like a version of a chief
I
officer.
already have that too. We have the same thing that we have in our schools as far as the support that we have under our umbrella too. My question is, I want to make sure that we're not paying that kind of money additionally to a superintendent that's supposed to do the job and not have all the support layered up under them as more of a assistant or associate superintendents. So, yeah, because,
So I
that's,
have for the senior level staff. Does that fit your criteria? Like, so it'd be broad enough to get the information you need?
I want to know, yeah, I mean, we already have that. What he just listed, we already have that already existing.
I know, but I'm trying to make a list of what we're collecting, so to make sure you get the information you need. Like so have all the people that he just mentioned, that will be in the report, so you get what you need. So anybody that reports to the director of schools, that's a senior level staff, that's academic and non-academic, or you just want the academic assistant superintendents?
We're putting their names on what we already have established, like for Shelby County. So we already have it already in Metro Schools. It's already there. We got people already in those positions that he just mentioned. going back to my point is that we're paying the same amount of, we're paying almost $1 million for like having additional superintendents.
I understand that.
Okay, so that's kind of where I want to see kind of more transparency on that. Because if we're going to spend that kind of money on 4 additional, right? Was it 4 additional associate superintendents? Was it 4? 4? Okay.
So I'm sorry, so you just want Metro, you don't want the other schools'
Yeah,
information?
I want to see what they're doing, but they may not be named,
Correct.
you know, what we
So-
already have in place. So it could be the same thing, but they may name it something different.
Correct.
So would it be important to have their salaries so that you can see what second level of, right under the director of schools, those folks who report to her, whatever they're called, to also know their salaries?
So just like David, Mr. Williams, just like him, he supports Dr. Battle. What's your role? Chief Academic Officer. So we already have another chief. So he's doing that. That just basically talks about the academic component, right? You're going to be working with all our folks on academics. Then we have another chief doing something else. My concern is the superintendents that are supporting the superintendent.
Correct.
Okay, not what their roles are, because that's exactly what we compare them to there, because there's one right there.
Yeah, we understand that. I want to make sure you get the information you need when we do the super list.
Yeah.
So I'll make sure, am I writing it right so you get the information that you need?
I don't know if they're going to have that. I don't know if they're going to have those roles up under a superintendent like Shelby County. I'm not sure if they're going to have that.
Okay.
I think the only way we could get that on a spreadsheet is if we put who directly reports to the director. If we're really trying to quantify it, I think that's the only way we could quantify it.
Okay.
Is who, if that's,
How many direct
if we
reports
are
they have.
going to say that that's something we want to put on this master Excel spreadsheet, it's direct reports.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so so Ms. Bobo is telling me that Tammy Grissom, who I thought might be here today but is not, is planning to, at our next meeting, wants to have some information sketched out for us. So unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do that, but we are going to discuss this at the board retreat on January 10th. So what I would suggest is if we can get Tammy Grissom to email the board the information that we would like to see about the local districts, and I'm going to let you be our secretary because Frida's already got that. Okay, and then if we want to have, I mean, we can have a little discussion on if it's helpful on email, just to be ready. But I think we need to kind of have in mind what we would like to advocate for, so we don't have another round of this discussion on salary range. January 10th. Does that work for everybody? What do you think, Cameo? Is that? Do you think that'll work? Because I don't want to slow. Do you think?
Go back and look at the timeline really quick.
Okay,
See what
yeah.
she expected you guys
And I wish you were here, and I'm sorry. Yes. Good.
Were we given any guidance, whether by Corey, excuse me, or by Tammy, of how much that range should be? Should it be 30,000, 50,000, or anything like that?
No, it's up to us, I
Okay,
think.
got it.
And is the range the top, or just starting point? You see what I'm saying?
No.
Like if we say the range that we're entertaining is 250 to 280. Like is the most we'll go to 280? Is that what we're
I think
saying?
it's just up to us. I mean, we can set whatever range we want, and it can mean anything we want.
I guess what I'm saying is, what is our absolute top salary?
Are we
right?
setting
And do we
that?
say that out of the gate, right? Do we say a range is, and that we cap it at, we won't go any higher than X, and then it won't go any higher than X on benefits? And additional, like, are we going to cap those things?
Either fortunately or unfortunately, the cap is whatever you decide it is.
That's what I'm saying. Are we
And
going
it's,
to put that out
but
there?
you're not bound by what you advertise.
Okay.
Right.
On the 10th, you're supposed to adopt the criteria for the director search. And then
If we have someone that's exceptional or whatever, and they're above our cap,
We'll give them.
we can still move past that cap. It would just be
We
a
can just schedule a little time. to-
stronger conversation that would have to take place.
Okay, yes, okay. So, what Ms. Bobo is telling me is that on the 10th, we're expected to adopt the criteria, which would include this discussion we're having, and then we're going to have a final vote on that on the 14th. So so what I would suggest is that we go ahead and get the information from Tammy Grissom, and then, and get that by email, and then have everybody think about what you want to see in your range, in your salary range, and then on the 10th, hopefully we can kind of move through that fairly quickly. How about that?
I would think so.
Okay. And then Part B is what we want to see in the contract, and I'm looking through these two contracts, and since we have almost an hour, do you want to just kind of go page by page, because I'm seeing things that I would like to change in them, and then maybe we can have that discussion.
Real quick, before we do that.
Go ahead.
What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna type this up and send it out to everybody tomorrow, and then hopefully by Friday, we can finalize it and then give Tammy so many weeks from now to the board to do it. So is that
Right.
okay with everyone? Okay.
Thank you for taking that on.
And then we'll have all the information that we want to make the decision, and can come in with some numbers in mind. Okay. All right, so if we look at the contracts, it looks like, and I haven't read this word for word, but it looks like the first page is about the same. I'll give y'all a minute to look over that. Although the credentials, I think probably we want to move back to Dr., this is again something we can negotiate, but to Dr. Register's credentials, we would probably accept that, because Dr. Joseph was asking for us to allow him time to verify his credentials.
What's the difference to that? Because Dr. Joseph came from out of state?
I
and
think
there was
so.
a very, okay.
So is it fair to say register was a little bit more solid because of not having all these credentials?
He came from Chattanooga, so I think he already had all his credentials in place.
With the state.
Yeah.
Do I remember it correctly that TSBA is going to review this as well?
They should.
Okay.
Yeah. We can ask them to, I guess. But I think we just need to set sort of a general
Oh, no, I don't disagree
framework. So I'm just letting you, yeah, this will not be our final contract, obviously, but we're just kind of getting an idea of what we want to
sure.
see.
Trying to make sure I was remembering things.
Okay, and so one issue that on the bottom of the first page, top of the second page, and then it goes, and well, let me just start there. So we allowed Dr. Joseph to do outside work for compensation. I personally would rather have the director of schools devote full-time to the director of schools position, because I think it is a more than a full-time job, and it comes with a good salary. And so I would like to see us move back to having our director only work as a director of schools. There is one caveat. It's the bottom of first page and the second page. So if you look, so on both of theirs, it's the bottom first page, second page. Then if you look at let's say this is Dr. Joseph's on page 3, he has a whole section on outside employment that he's added information in. It looks like for both of them, we were allowing, for both Dr. Joseph and Dr. Register, we were allowing up to 10 days during vacation for the director to conduct outside professional activities for compensation. So we're allowing 10 days, if they want to take their 10 days of vacation time and work for compensation, we were okay with that. So I'm fine with that, but I do think that I would like to see us have a director work full-time for the district.
I'm good with the 10 days. I think that's fair.
Okay.
Their time off, they can do what they want with it.
Right?
But beyond that, I think, for me,
Is everybody in agreement with that? Okay. You all stop, just if you want to bring up anything, you're welcome to. Okay, so we've gone through the first page up into the top of the second page. And it looks like up to 6 is exactly the same, so. Number 6. Okay, and on number 6 for Dr. Joseph, we inserted a new clause about board director relationships and communications, which basically I think now is outlined in policy. So I would suggest taking that out. I don't see that we need to. It's the bottom of page 2 only on Dr. Joseph's contract. We did not have this with Dr. Register. But basically, this is going to give us liability for not following our policies, and I think that's problematic. This is all sort of understood through our policy, so I'd like to take that clause out, but I'll let y'all read it.
I X'd it.
Corey, do you have a copy of these? You want to? Okay. If you want to just kind of look over and see if anything jumps out that you think we might need to take in consideration.
Were there any extra copies of the contracts that we could give to Corey?
I'm gonna go deep in my own.
Yeah, are y'all, does everybody agree that we would take out 6 for the next director of schools?
Okay, maybe I was confused. I thought we were just kind of looking over these, and then TSBA would make some recommendations before we pass something.
No, it's up to, we're not going to pass them. I'm just saying, what I'm trying to do is come up with the parameters we'd like to set generally. Obviously, it will not be final until we vote on a final contract, but they're asking for us to say, what do we want to see in a contract with the next director? Yes. So I would like to take out Section 6 only of Dr. Joseph's. That was added for him.
I agree.
I don't see a point in taking a full vote at this point, but I just kind of want to guess, unless we have a huge disagreement. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so number 7 is, it's probably the easiest way to do it, although it's different numbers, of course. So it looks like the ethics, conflicts of interest, and acceptance of gifts is largely the same. That's something we can review later. I think we can move past that. We've discussed outside employment, which is number 8 on Dr. Joseph's and number 7 on Dr. Register's. Okay, then we're going to look at the compensation. The benefits are just going to be that's going to be a whole new discussion, I think, once we get information from Tammy. So it looks like A and B are the same on both, right? Okay.
Contribution to a deferred program of 13%. That's new, that's not on Dr.
Yeah, I was looking for that.
Oh, the 13%.
What line are you on? I'm sorry.
At the top of page 4, Dr. Registers under retirement and deferred compensation. The second half of the paragraph, the board's contribution of 13% to the base salary of his base salary.
So in Dr. Joseph, on page 4, section C exists, but on page 3 in Dr. Register's, section 8, there isn't a C section for retirement.
Deferred compensation.
Yeah, deferred compensation.
That was an addition.
Correct. Oh, well, no, it's under fringe benefits.
I'm still
9B.
having a high, what,
Okay, where are we
9B.
Are we on fringe benefits? Where are we at?
So that's the problem. So under Dr. Joseph, his deferred compensation is on page 4, paragraph C. And Dr. Register's contract, it's section 9, part B, on page 3.
13% compensation fee.
Correct.
Did you find it, Amy?
And this is on
I'm
our
missing
entire
the
benefits?
13%, that's what I'm looking for.
It's written out in 13. It's not-
Okay.
that's not
And then
written
it's
out.
Page,
That's, yeah.
on
no,
page
that's
4.
Okay.
All of this
Oh, I see,
is
okay.
new. It
Right.
doesn't exist on the
Right.
registers.
Yeah, and that's what I think that's what Mr. Hinton was saying, is that the deferred compensation was much greater for Dr. Joseph.
And what's the vesting? Is there a vesting time period under the state one, or is there, are automatically vested, or how does that work?
For both these, it's 5 years.
Since they changed it into a hybrid system several years ago, I'm not sure of their vesting requirements.
Okay, go, carry on.
The hybrid plan, to get into the TCRS portion, is still a 5-year vesting.
Okay.
The other, they also have, since it's a hybrid, the other portion of the plan. And that's, again, assuming that they're eligible for the TCRS hybrid plan as opposed to a non-certificate that supports that, but yes. If it was to that side, basically, it's with Metro,
I'm going to suggest we take that out. I think we just ended up giving a whole lot of extra benefits that we didn't have to give during the last negotiation. So I think we just probably go back again to Dr. Joseph's contract. I mean, sorry, Dr. Registers, I'm just confused everybody. Okay, thank you.
Those are all moving around.
Okay, personal leave. Are we done with all the others? I think.
Personally.
I think that may be the same, but nope.
I'd like to get TSBA's recommendation, though, on how the contracts that they help negotiate with directors of schools throughout the state, how that personal leave is quantified.
Okay. Cammy, are you getting all this? Okay.
Lori's taking notes too.
Okay, good.
What was the, say that, what did you have?
Oh, personal leave, I'd like to get TSBA's recommendation on what, how personal leave is quantified for superintendents of the state.
They look almost exactly the same on both contracts, on the personal leave.
Even the sick leave, our teachers and our employees get 1 day a month. So why does our director of schools get 1.5 days of sick leave a month? Is that, I'm just wondering if that's typical for benefits for the director of schools. I'd like to hear from TSBA about that.
All right, so I'm trying to see, there are a lot of different, trying to see if these are similar. For example,
So the accrued sick leave is a whole new, the accrued leave compensation does not exist.
new section.
Oh, no, it's further down on Dr. Registers.
Ah. Although there's a different
Calculation.
definition, yeah, I mean calculation rather. That might be
So that per
something.
diem rate is the difference.
That may be something we also ask TSBA what typically, because I believe they have a standard contract too. Yep. Okay. Okay. Well, they,
What about this,
rural districts for one thing, I don't know.
I wonder if it's the size, the different sizes.
Yeah.
You know, rural district compared to an urban district. Okay.
Let's go back, I'm sorry, we asked them to provide sick leave, accrued leave, and what else? There was a third.
Just other benefits.
Personally,
Personal leave?
yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay.
There is
I
a
think that
lot
is
of,
personal leave is vacation.
giving a lot away in this contract, in Joseph's.
Yeah.
It's a lot of, I don't, they, you get, I mean,
So I know so the Civic Social Club membership, for example, basically, Dr., let's see, Dr. Register, no, this is actually the opposite, could join any that he wanted as long as the board, as long as we didn't pay for it. Whereas,
Dr. Joseph, you can join up to 3.
right, and then we had to pay for it, so that's a question of whether, I'm thinking probably we should not pay for it.
Yeah.
I mean, they make a big salary, and if they want to join a,
Right, agreed.
okay. Does everybody agree on that? Okay.
I was thinking that too. How do you want to do?
These are civic social clubs. This is not.
This
the
says
same
civic
as
club
professional.
membership.
Oh, you're in the civic part.
Right.
Okay, I was at
Civic.
professional.
Okay.
Okay.
This is
Although-
like Leadership Nashville dues kind of stuff, you know?
This says professional membership dues. Okay, so for Dr. Register, it does say that for the membership dues, we pay for professional membership dues and cost of, yeah. And actually, Dr. Joseph got that too. So I think if we just take out Dr. Joseph's section on all the civic club memberships.
I don't have a problem with that one.
Okay. Automobile, that's a big one. So we did not provide any automobile, it looks, no, it is, oh, never mind, there we go.
So they're the same, basically. They're the same.
Do we want to keep this?
I think so. That's just me. I mean, I could be persuaded otherwise, but we have other personnel that have cars. And so if he's not allowed a car, then all of a sudden you have a whole bunch of other folks that
Yeah.
are driving cars as well.
I don't have a problem with him having a car or any director of schools having a car. I do have a problem with saying that the personal use of the car is the responsibility of the board.
I agree.
So,
I agree too.
so what's our policy with those employees that do have it? Is it like, I know Metro General employees, you come, you park your car, then you come pick up the Metro car and you take it back? Or do you treat it like cops and you can take it home? So I guess that's the question.
Depends on the position. That position is typically for take on vacation cars.
Okay.
I don't know what these, it says that we're responsible for additional taxes incurred in connection with use of the vehicle in accordance with the principles contained in the revenue procedure 8148. I don't know what that means, so I guess we
Does he
need.
have to claim the car on his taxes as a write-off? Is that what that is?
Now, if you have a take-home car, it's deemed that is some level of income. And so there is a deduction on each paycheck for that, based upon the number of days that the vehicle was driven during that pay period. So I'm assuming what that's saying is, for Dr. Joseph, that deduction did not take place in the board. That's what it sounds like.
Well, that's in both contracts here.
Yeah, they're actually the same, I think.
And that, again, is for, it says, Dr. Joseph and Dr. Register, it's the same, looks like the same language. For additional, Dr. Register, the board further agrees to reimburse Dr. Register for any additional tax incurred by him in connection with his personal use of such vehicle. And I think that's the way it reads in Dr. Joseph. So again, we're talking about personal use. And if we agree that we don't want to pay for the personal use of the car for our director, I think we could delete that.
Okay. I'd agree with that. What does everybody think?
Good.
I just
And
more want to hear whatever TSBA says. I'm not bound to it, but don't want to fight it if that would keep us from having someone really well, so. I'm
Then
open
also,
to
I
what
want
they
to
say.
add, no driver unless there's an emergency. No driver.
Ooh, I'm sorry. Okay.
No driver unless it's an emergency.
I love that Dr. Register's contract refers to having a BlackBerry.
I know, so.
Not long ago.
Yep.
Did you get that, Amy?
No, he
Yes,
gets his
I
own
got it.
BlackBerry.
No, we're not at that. No more. We want to make it clear on the board floor. Nobody talking about it no more. No driver.
Okay, and then another big difference is that we paid for Dr. Joseph to move here, which I would suggest that we also take out. And then he also got transition, 10 days of transition and preparation services. I'm not sure what that means.
Did Dr. Register get that? I mean, yeah, did he
No.
get that?
I don't see that we did, hold on, unless I'm missing something. No. So that's, I would suggest we just take out all the moving and transition expenses. Again, we're paying a pretty high salary potentially.
I would like for us to get a suggestion on that from TSBA.
Okay.
I know that's that's pretty common in contracts I've looked at. Maybe not the transition services, but at least the
So
moving or
we paid
relocation.
him the move, travel for his full family to come, 10 days of transition and preparation services, I don't know what that was, plus other receipts accompanied by appropriate documentation, and 5 days of travel, and to look for temporary housing, and 3 months of temporary housing, which just seems like a whole lot, but
Do you know how
we
much
can
we
ask
paid for that,
TSBA.
Chris? No.
I mean, that's a lot, so.
Yeah, but I'm openly maybe giving a flat fee for relocation. Like, I think we should cap it, or we should at least have
This
that
is just like a
discussion.
heck of a lot, yeah.
Yeah, like maybe like 2,000 to 3,000, like the average cost of a moving truck to move furniture, and the rest they can be
Yeah.
right off their tax. I'm not a tax attorney, so, yeah. But
Yeah.
I don't want to completely move it out, but I think there should at least be a flat fee saying we're willing to
Not gonna
Up
exceed.
to
up to a
whatever.
certain amount. Yeah.
I think we want to avoid language like reasonably priced temporary housing. I mean, what does that mean? We just
Yeah.
open ourselves up
Yeah.
to
Who did this
problems.
contract?
I don't know, I would like to start negotiations without offering moving if that becomes a sticking point or something, but I feel like we're paying a big salary, but I'm open to hearing, I doubt TSBA is gonna have that in other contracts, but I could be totally wrong, just because there's, usually deal with small districts, but we can get input before we.
Yeah.
The transition stuff I don't understand, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything
We
else.
paid a lot.
I can give just a little clarity on that.
Yeah.
But that was when Dr. Joseph was coming in before his July 1 start date, particularly as it related to interviewing, the interview process for new principals, because we had a number of new principals. And so he came in and started before the July 1 direct start date.
Okay. So in essence, we were paying travel and transition costs under the assumption he was having to do his job. Because I mean, if his job was to hire principals and such, we're paying for that transition travel. That's what we're saying.
Paying him a salary to come in and start work
Before the contract. Okay. Okay.
Okay. Are we ready to move on? I was looking at the evaluation portion, which is 10 on Joseph, 10 on Joseph and 10 on register and 16 on Joseph. We might want to tweak that just to line up with our current evaluation schedule. It says at the end of the school year, and I don't know.
Do we want to stick to a mid-year? Or do we want to put that in writing, or is that more of a formative conversation?
Maybe we could say the board shall, and Dr. Joseph shall evaluate annually, and that would solve the problem.
I would say annually.
Yeah.
Or could we say and refer back to our policy here? So,
According to board
According to the
policy?
board
Yeah, that's a
policy.
good idea.
and that way, if that changes, this will be in
That's right,
compliance.
just takes care of it.
Okay. All right, good call. I did not know that we were requiring our director to submit to an annual medical examination.
It's never reported to the board.
Wow. Okay.
Was this added where? To whose contract?
No, that's in both of their contracts.
17 on Joseph and 11 on.
We're almost there, guys. Sorry, we're slow.
This is
All right.
good.
Okay, so there's this indemnification, number 19 on Dr. Joseph, which does not exist.
Yep.
That's something I'd like to hear what TSBA has to say
Yeah.
about indemnification.
Yeah. There's a difference in the non-tenure. I was looking at that. There's an extra line in registers.
Meaning, under Director Registers, that he can't be demoted to another position within the district? Is that what
That's
that
how I read
means?
it. That's how I read it. But I don't know why we would have removed that.
Corey, do you have any thoughts on the non-tenure clause, 12 on registers and 18 on Dr. Joseph's?
Well, the reason it's there is just like statute, the secretary of position in a position other than being a teacher. So the tenure is only a teacher. There's various wording in various statutes that basically say. This contract, you don't get tenure as a director of schools position. I like having it in there, but again, we're covered under the statute that kind of says the same thing. But it's just really making it clear that when the contract is over, there's no pay.
So you were suggesting adding the final line from Dr. Register's contract into Dr. Joseph's? Basically, utilizing Dr. Register's clause for further clarity and.
I guess either way, as long as it's in there, I mean, I guess that's up to you. I'm not as much worried about whether or not we can move them from one place to the other. The contract kind of,
Okay.
the contract kind of says what their position is. I just like that you're not getting tenure in that position. You're not guaranteed that position. So, whether that second sentence from Dr. Register's contract is done or not, I think it's kind of just dependent on what the board wants to do, if you think it's important.
Harm with adding it if we feel like it's.
All right, so another big change, I think, is going to be the termination clauses. Those are very different.
Are they?
So termination for cause, it says, Dr. Register, if he's unable to substantially perform his duties because of disability, and then seems that it tracks the language of the statute. Any act of moral turpitude, willful misconduct, dishonesty, fraud. So it sounds like the same language that we use for teachers. And whereas Dr. Joseph, it just says that he would terminate it for proof of material breach of a provision of the contract, intentional violation of the board policy, or violation of law.
It's another one of those
Yeah.
words that's hard to.
Yeah, well. So I mean, I tend to want to go back to Dr. Register's contract again, because if we're tracking the language of the statute, it seems to me that would be stronger, but that may be something that we need to revisit with TSBA and also our attorneys.
Okay. Oh, crap, there's protesting outside.
I'm sorry, it is, I'm suggesting that we use the language of the statute, which is in Dr. Register's contract because it tracks state law, but also I think that we gave a lot of leeway to Dr. Joseph that we probably should not have done on termination.
I will say Dr. Register's contract doesn't exactly follow.
Okay.
And you're right, that it is kind of closer, it maybe parallels the statute. So, I mean, if you're wanting it to just be that the director of schools can be terminated for the same reasons as a teacher pursuant to statute, we can certainly do that language, or you can whatever you want, whether it's this language or something else.
And I think what disturbs me about Dr. Joseph's contract is that we could not terminate him unless he did something intentional, which is kind of the key. So, and I think that's
Costs us a lot of money.
possibly. Okay, so with cause, we've got maybe another 10 minutes.
We're talking about termination.
Termination without cause, sorry. It's B on Dr. Joseph, 20B, or 14 on register. So basically, does not allow us to terminate Dr. Joseph without cause. It says if any other governmental entity with legal authority to do so. So we were sort of putting that off on, unless I'm missing something.
Don't we already have different language for Dr. Battle?
Do we have a different contract?
We don't have a contract in place for her. We've just,
Yes, we do.
do we have a full contract? Okay, then I don't know.
Same.
Yeah, we had a couple meetings about it.
It should try, didn't we use Dr. Register's, Dr. Joseph's? Yeah.
And then we
That's
made
probably the
amendments.
same.
I was about to say, we changed a lot of it, though.
Okay. Well, that's something else to consider our next meeting then. Okay.
Could you send that to everybody?
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
yeah.
I feel so unprepared for this. We didn't have
Okay.
any of this.
So I guess we can again ask TSBA thoughts on this termination without cause, but I think that the board should be able to terminate a director without cause. That's my overall thought. Resignation seems to be the same. We have
The rest of them are the same.
well, except we have a requirement that Dr. Register live in Davidson County. Do we want to require that?
That's also on Dr. Joseph's on page
That's
8.
next
Oh,
page.
okay. Got it.
And I guess also, can we have have TSBA looking about requiring if they have children, whether they have to attend Metro Public Schools or allowance for a private school. I don't know, like politically.
Oh, I don't want to pay for private school
No,
tuition.
we don't pay for it, but is that a discussion we need to have, we don't need to have? I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know if that's proper.
Require them
Yeah, I
to
don't know
put
if it's
them in
proper
public
or
school.
appropriate or legal.
I mean, they can put their kids on, they have choices, they have choice.
Okay,
Yeah, you can't, yeah.
okay, just throwing it out there.
It would be telling.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
I want to govern you, but I don't send my kids there.
For us to say.
Yeah, I mean, there's legit reason why you would do
Yeah.
that.
Imagine, oh my gosh.
So, okay. So is there anything else anyone wants to throw in that we want to look at before we reconvene in January?
Every single one.
That sounds like what we doing, we suggesting, we need to have TSBA to submit all the information,
Yeah.
as far as the salaries.
Yes.
But I want it in Tennessee, I don't want it outside the state of Tennessee.
Okay, so I'm just going to, before we adjourn, I'm just going to just summarize that we are asking TSBA to provide information on salaries and staffing for the 4 urban districts in Tennessee, and we're also asking for specific information on the clauses that, in the contract that we have discussed.
The 4 urban cities that you're talking about is Knox County, Memphis, Chattanooga.
No, but not us, just 3.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, the class, the members of class. Sorry, we're number 4. And then we will get emails on that, and then in January, we will take up this discussion again at the board retreat. Yes.
May we also get, not just on the Tennessee schools, but also on these closest sister cities,
Okay.
that same
You want
information?
just those 2 cities?
Yes, probably just Albuquerque and Fort Worth.
Okay.
Because they're the closest to us, either by teacher salary or by enrollment.
And also add to that the cost of living, to both of those.
But just those 2.
Uh-huh. The ones that she requested, I want to know the cost of living. Yes, yes.
Okay.
Can I ask you, Chris, is 46,000 the average teacher salary in metro schools? That seems low to me.
I don't know where that came from.
That's low.
Okay.
There's no way that's the average.
I don't know why it seems low.
1,000 over 44.
Right.
Right.
So I don't think that's accurate.
I'm not sure where that came from.
Okay, then those 2 cities may change. But I guess my request is,
For school district enrollment.
can we have it for some sister districts and not just Tennessee districts?
Okay.
Like Louisville, you know?
And they have a consolidated government too. They have a consolidated government, Louisville.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay. Well, if there's nothing else, then we'll adjourn for the next 15 minutes and be back at 5. Good? Okay. Thank you.
What are you going to do about the contract changes? Are you going to, you want me to add that?
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.